So I'm here today with Devin Jopp, who's incoming CEO of WEDI, the Workgroup for Electronic Data Interchange. But we're actually going to talk about something that he's passionate about. And it's something that he did his PhD on, the existence of both formal and informal networks within an organization. So Devin, what's an informal network?
Well, it's interesting. In organizations, there's actually formal and informal networks. The formal is actually the easiest to define. It's really actually the network where the hierarchy exists. So you have the president, the vice presidents, the directors, and the managers. It's how you think that work might get done and the flow of being able to go up the ladder or down the ladder. Informal networks actually are really cut across that, regardless of position. They actually are the relationships that people have with each other, where they exchange knowledge, information, emotion, and feeling on the day-to-day basis. It's some people might call it coffee talk.
So is it the guys who go to lunch, the people who go out to smoke, the people who go out to happy hour together?
It can be all of those things, in fact, or it could be the people that you just run into the hallway with and have a quick conversation. Sometimes I remember when I was working in an organization in a government building, we actually got a lot of business done at the local Starbucks or in the elevator. We'd run into the administrator of the organization. Those are opportunities where you kind of get your little sound bites or opportunities to connect with that person, where you may not even start off talking with business, but you're actually talking about personal things as a way to get comfortable and build trust.
So how do you find or identify these informal networks?
They're actually relatively invisible, you would think, from when you look at the organization, but they're actually quite easy to see when you start looking at where the people congregate and get together. You talk about the lunch crowd. That's actually one example of people that actually go out. I remember in a chapter organization, you would have a lunch crowd that would always go out. You knew that they were actually kind of socializing together. You also can see in organizations where if you're in a meetings, people supporting each other on a regular basis or sharing information that might be very similar. That's also another way that you can kind of triangulate where people are coming from or who that they're engaged with. The most formal way you could do this is something called a social network analysis, where you can actually evaluate how people are actually survey them to actually see who they talk to, if they're actually going to be honest about it. It's hard to really put your finger on their informal network, particularly if they know that you, the manager, are going to know the results.
So how do these informal networks help or hinder an organization?
They actually, let's start with hinder first. Hinder really is they can become almost the social media, if you will, of a formal organization. You see people kind of get together and all of a sudden they come out and they lash out against something. It could be that there's no bonus structure. Next thing you know, the people are grousing in the informal network, and it can create conditions where there's unhappiness and morale can degrade. So that's really where it can become a negative. But it can also become very much a positive, because if you, as a manager, you embrace these, they actually are where the work gets done. It's actually a lot of times the companies will try to bring them together or foster these informal gatherings. Sometimes they'll have tables that don't have chairs, right, where people can come together and just kind of sit down or chat with each other or have a quick conversation. But a lot of times it's where you're sharing quick bits of information and intelligence with each other that they can go off and be useful in their task information. Or sometimes people have to let loose some of their emotions or things that they're dealing with at home, because that is actually a way that you build trust with your colleagues. And so in order to take your organization to a higher level, to be able to say, okay, we're going to work together well, you may actually want to be able to build that informal camaraderie, because that trust is what's going to allow them to work formally together better.
So if I find I'm working within an organization and my message isn't getting heard, I might use the informal network to kind of send it up the grapevine.
Exactly.
So that's how that works.
Exactly. And you have to be careful that you come across as being sincere. And a lot of times a manager will try to say, well, we'll just throw a party. And that doesn't really get to the heart of it. I think a lot of times it gets back to trying to get these people to actually work with each other and meet with each other in a way that makes sense and where they feel like they're connecting individually. And so you might be able to create a task group and ask for folks who wants to be involved with this, and make it self-generative. Let them actually appoint a leader and actually try to tackle a topic, or ask for certain kinds of ideas back from the group and let them kind of self-form and see what kind of feedback you get.
So those would be good ways to foster and take advantage of an informal network?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's really the way that as a manager you can try to put control or try to tap into the value of that. The hardest part of what you probably don't want to do is go in and try to hold somebody and say, well, I can't believe you said this to somebody else. Or sometimes I think managers can try to fear that, and I think that could become a problem. So a lot of times you'll want to steer into that and actually try to use it rather than actually trying to fight it, because a lot of times you'll lose. The informal network goes around you, and it's like trying to fight something that goes on the internet where it's a release of information you didn't want, and then it's out there, and
Right.
you got to deal with it.
Right. Well, Devin, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for watching the Matrix Minute. Don't forget to connect with us on our blog and social media. For more information, go to matrixgroup.net.